What is up, everyone? Welcome aboard the Fantasy Fast Track. Today, we are talking about 5 of the running backs you should draft first in your fantasy drafts. Now, we are not talking about top 5 rankings. We are talking about the top 5 upside running backs for this season. Coming in at running back number 1 is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is 27 years old this season, and he has not hit that age cliff of 28 years old. He's coming up on it pretty close, but he has a tremendous amount of upside being with the 49ers in the Shanahan run scheme, and he is going to be able to collect a large amount of yards. And I know that normally the 49ers have used a platoon of running backs, but when you have a running back like Christian McCaffrey, you're going to use him. Now, when I'm looking at these stats, I'm breaking down, I've looked up all of these different teams that have great rushing offenses, and more or less workhorse running back should get about 65% of the workload. Nobody's really getting 80% of the workload anymore. That just doesn't happen. So, let's talk about Christian McCaffrey here. If that was the case, Christian McCaffrey should be on pace for about 327 rushing attempts at 4.5 yards per carry. That is 1,473 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns at 65% of the usage of a running back for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the reason we're looking at upside is because you want to win. Fantasy football is fun, but it's even more fun when you're winning. RB number 2 actually kind of surprised me, but this is a great running back that has a lot of upside, and that is Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, a lot of the knock on him is that he is small and that he won't be able to survive the workload. And people were saying from last year that if the workload was getting to him, then that's how he broke his leg or his ankle or whatever was happening. But we're talking about upside here. If he stays healthy the whole entire season and he finishes at the totals that he finishes with 65% of the Cowboys workload, and he doesn't have Zeke there to sit there and vulture touchdowns, so he will get most of the rushing touchdowns. Now, the person that is getting all the hype in camp is Deuce Vaughn, and Deuce Vaughn is not the biggest dude in the world, so he probably will not be vulturing touchdowns like Zeke was. If Tony Pollard gets 65% of the workload for the Cowboys for rushing, he would have 343 rush attempts at 5 yards per carry. That is 1,725 rushing yards, 15 rushing touchdowns, and really, he should get a large amount of targets. I didn't cover that with Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey would be on a pace for 100 targets last year. Tony Pollard, in this case, would not have been. He's at 65 targets and with 52 receptions. So, let's talk about RB number 3. RB number 3 coming in is Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley was doing great last year. The Giants have an upgraded offense, and I believe that they're going to have to relax a little bit on putting players in the box. With Darren Waller there and all the slot receivers, there's going to be more of a passing threat. And with Daniel Jones being there, and he did show a little bit of a rushing threat last year with the 700 rushing yards that he had, he's going to be able to distract the defense because they are going to have to respect him as a rusher. With Saquon Barkley, he is 26 years old, so he has not hit that age cliff, and he does not have a lot of, I guess, wear and tear on him because he's been hurt the last 2 previous seasons before this one. So he doesn't have all those touches. And if we were to stat this out, and this is just upside speaking, this obviously, when you're in your drafts, and you want to get somebody that's reliable, you could go with other running backs. But with upside, and we show that usually the people that turn into league-winning running backs come before the age 28. None of them are really coming after that. So if you look at Saquon Barkley and his totals, he would end up with 338 rush attempts, have 4.8 yards per carry, 1,622 rushing yards, and 13 rushing touchdowns. Number 4, Bijan Robinson. Now, everybody is crowning Bijan Robinson before he's even played a snap in the NFL. But he is going into the perfect running back team. With the Falcons, they ran like crazy, and when running didn't work, they ran some more. The Falcons averaged 160 rushing yards per game, which would total to around 2,700 yards last year. 2,718, I believe, is what it is. So if Bijan can get a hold of that and get the 363 rush attempts, 4.9 yards per carry, and set 1,780 rushing yards at 11 touchdown pace, that is tremendous upside, and he's shown that he can hold up to a workload similar to that. At Texas, they ran him like crazy. At the Falcons, they're going to run the football, and he's looking at a Derrick Henry-esque rushing totals for this upcoming year. And I know that you get him in the first round, and that's how a lot of these running backs are with, well, other than Tony Pollard and Saquon Barkley, with Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson, you're getting them in the first round, but their upside is so ridiculous, and that is why they're there. You want a running back that can be a game breaker. And a lot of people are kind of shrugging off drafting a rookie because of the stink of Clyde Edwards-Helaire 2 years ago. But with Bijan Robinson, he has a chance to have a Saquon Barkley season, Ezekiel Elliott season, where as a rookie, he comes in and he can finish as the RB1 overall with a tremendous amount of upside. Last on the list is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has a great opportunity as a Browns running back to be the workhorse running back. Kareem Hunt is not there. He isn't going to be vulturing touches, vulturing touchdowns, and there is a good chance that Nick Chubb becomes a little bit more of a threat in the receiving game. When Kareem Hunt was out on his 8-week suspension, not last year, I believe it was the year before, Nick Chubb played without Kareem Hunt, and he was on a 50 target pace for the remainder of the season. So if you look at that, that's not a large amount of targets. That's half of what Christian McCaffrey started out for, but Nick Chubb makes up for it on the ground. If he was to get totaled out for 65% of the workload, he would end up with 343 rush attempts at 5 yards per carry, 1,729 rushing yards, and 12 touchdowns. It is an elite level, and I'm looking at upside here. I'm not looking at just what he could get. Obviously, injuries happen, more players get work, all that stuff. But with these players, and we're looking at just these upside totals, they can win your league. And there's a good possibility that they can come close to that if they remain healthy. Let's just go over the final numbers that they would end up with at the end of the season. With fantasy points and half-point PPR, you're looking at 367.8 points for Christian McCaffrey, 360.9 points for Tony Pollard, 316.3 for Saquon Barkley, 315.1 for Bijan Robinson, and 300 even for Nick Chubb. That is a lot of fantasy points. Last year, I think only one running back scored over 300 fantasy points. So these high upside running backs that you can pick up are worth getting in the first and second rounds because they have that tremendous amount of upside. The age cliff isn't there, and if they get put in as the workhorse back that they should be, you could look at a league winner running back. And when you have a running back like this, you are going to win your fantasy league. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like this and got value from this, please subscribe and tell me what you thought in the comments if you're looking for other videos like this or what videos you would like to see. We'll see you next time.